Hey book lovers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mar and happy 2026 everyone. I hope that the beginning of this year has treated you well so far. Maybe not, but it's okay. We literally have 12 months to get to our reading and book goals. For today's video, I just wanted to come on here and share with you my 2026 reading and book goals, objectives, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to keep this intro too long, so without further ado, let's get started. Last year, I don't think I ended up doing a video like this, and so I think for this video I'm just going to sort of walk you through the book goals that I've already set for myself going into the year already. And so I have my handy dandy reading journal. I don't think you can see whatever's on my iPad, but my handy dandy reading journal that I just have on my iPad, and I'll link down below where you can get the same reading journal. It's just from another YouTuber. Last year, I don't think I set any goals for myself other than read 100 books. And did I end up achieving that goal last year? No, I did not. And so going into 2026, I really wanted to think a lot deeper on how I want to, see reading as a hobby. And obviously, I do booktube and all of that. I wanted to kind of just reframe how I see my reading goals and reading strategy going into 2026. Let's get into it. So, the first reading goal that I personally have is obviously using a reading journal and all of that this year. I think when I was starting to get into reading, which was around 2023 and all that, I think my goals back then were just I want to read as many books as I can in order to fall in love with reading again. And so a lot of the books that I was reading a lot of series, I was rereading a lot of books that I personally loved and helped me fall back into love with reading and all of that, but I never really had any intention of writing reviews of books or really journaling how I feel about books and all that. It was very much just a numeric goal in that I just want to read as much as possible and get back into that, routine of having this as my hobby. And so I think that sort of mentality led me to making my reading goals for 2024 and 2025, which was pretty much read as many books as I can. That was really it. Read as many books as I can and somehow figure out a way to make content from that. And so going into 2026, I really want to be more intentional with the books that I'm reading and the books that I'm sharing on my YouTube channel and all that. And so that's why I really wanted to get into the habit of having a reading journal, because I really want to connect and really think about the books that I'm reading in a critical way. And so I think having a reading journal makes sense, because as I'm starting to read more books and books that align with more of my values and, just what I like to read in general, I think having just a spot where I can review my books and all that without it being like something like Storygraph or Fable or like Goodreads or whatever, I think just having a section to myself where I can really think about these books in my own sort of critical lens, I think is going to be really helpful in creating future content and talking about specific books that I am sharing on my channel and all of that. And so that is sort of the first thing I want to do this year, is just to use this reading journal. Let's get into this next part. I set my reading goal for 2026 to be one book. And the reason for that is because in the past few years, I've been setting it as 100. And in the past few years, I was able to, attain that goal of 100 because, first off, I was in school, I was unemployed, I had way more free time on my hands versus how much free time I have now that I'm working a 9-to-5 job, now that I have more adult responsibilities and all that. My free time has cut down quite a bit. And so I wanted to just put my reading goal as one book because I don't want to really quantify, my reading objective and all of that. And I feel like reading goals are really good. Having a numbered reading goal is really good for people who want to get into that habit of reading more books and, just developing that hobby of reading and all that. I think that is a great goal to have. And, quantifying it is a really good way to do it. But for me, because now that reading is one of my main hobbies. I know I'm going to do it all the time. Just having a numbered reading goal for me doesn't make sense, because if I have that numbered reading goal, then that just makes me want to read as many books as I can as fast as I can, and it doesn't help me with the intentional reading aspect part of my personal goals for this year. So yeah, again, my first goal is obviously relates to the reading journal and all that, but it's just having intentional reading. So picking books that I know I'm going to want to interact with, and I'm going to want to interact with in a very critical like lens and way. I just want to be more intentional in the books that I'm reading this year, and not just pick up books that Book Talk has recommended me, or this thing has recommended me. I want to read books that I know that I'm going to want to think about in the future. And so that's kind of what intentional reading means in this sense. And also, like, I think when you get into that mindset of reading as many books as you can, you don't retain as much information when you're reading those books. You kind of just like read for the sake of saying you've read a book, and then you move on to the next one. And ask me if I remember any of the stories or plots or characters from books I've read last year. Like, if you pick a random one that I said I've read, I doubt that I could tell you the plot of it. And so I feel like, to me, that's just something I don't want to continue to do in the future. And so, yeah, I just really want to be more intentional with the books that I'm reading and retain a lot more information, if that makes sense. So, the next goal that I have for 2026 is that I really want to reread more of my books. And I think for me, rereading books is just such an entertaining thing for me and all that. And a lot of times when I'm buying books and all that, I'm buying them with the intention of rereading these books anyways. And so I feel like for me, I'm very good at buying books and keeping books. And, it's like a lot of the books that I specifically buy, I read within the year of getting them. For the most part, there are some books that intimidate the fuck out of me, and so I just don't pick them up. And so therefore they can't scare me anymore. I don't know. But yeah, it's like a lot of the books that I have on my bookshelves already are books that I've already read. And so I want to go back and reread a lot of the series that, I either read when I was getting started reading again, or, books that I just loved reading as a kid and all that. So I want to reread more books this year. And I think this year is a really good time, considering I spent like 3 years already just reading a bunch of new books. Now I can really just sit and like reread all of my favorite series and all that. So that's what I want to do. And so maybe I'll make a reading vlog out of those and all that. But yeah, that is another one of my goals. So the next goal I have is obviously like buy less books. And I think as I reflected on the past years and all of that, I feel like a lot of the books that I was buying was really just based out of FOMO. I would like see all these TikToks being like, here are new releases, here are new releases, here are new releases. And I would like go to the bookstore just to get these new releases. And then I just wouldn't read them. And I think a lot of it just comes out of like FOMO of like, I don't want to be the last person to have this book and grab this book and all of that and read this book. But at the same time, I think a lot of it has come just like due to the fact that there have been more special editions or like more sprayed edges of books and all of that, that really that's kind of what drives me to buy books. Yes, I'm someone who judges books based off of their cover. God forbid a girl be a graphic designer and actually care about the visual design of a specific book. Just saying. And so for me, I think what I've realized is that a lot of the times I've just been buying books based off of their cover, based off of the sprayed edge they have, especially within like the recent like year that books have been released. And so for me, I really want to, buy books that first off, I personally like design wise, but also books that I personally like reading it. And so it's like sometimes I'll buy a book that, again, looks super pretty and all that, but then when I read it, it's kind of like a mediocre book. And so I really want to buy less books and use the library more in that case, or buy used books and all of that. And so that is another one of my goals for 2026. My next goal for 2026 is, I feel like this goal is literally always on my reading goal list and I just never learn, but that is to read more nonfiction books and again, more diverse books. I feel like that goal is also just good to have in general, whether or not you complete it or not in the previous years. I feel like, it's like, even though reading is a hobby that you can use to, you know, for entertainment and all that, is also a hobby to have just to educate yourself on different topics and on different lights that you personally, you know, might not interact with. I think when you interact with more books that you don't necessarily see yourself interacting with, like for me, for example, I really only read fiction books. And so now when it comes to like getting audiobooks and all that, I try to get books that I don't see myself reading, and you know, or I try to pick topics that I personally am interested in real life. And so I'm like, well, time to educate myself more on this topic, even though I already engage with other media like YouTube or like TV shows about this specific content. Let's read a book about it. And so yeah, like that's kind of my goal going into this next year, is just to read more nonfiction, to really educate myself on topics that I'm passionate about, and read more diverse books. My last kind of reading goal for 2026 is that I want to annotate more of my books. I have all of these annotation supplies that I feel like I haven't used. And so, especially if I'm doing rereads or if I'm interacting with books that I know I'm going to love and want to, you know, annotate and all that, I should just take the time to do it. The reason why I usually don't annotate books is that it takes me like weeks to annotate them. And so, usually when you're filming YouTube content and all that, it's really hard to get that content out if it's taking you like 3 or 4 weeks to film that specific video and all of that. And so, yeah, I definitely want to annotate more, and I want to do more annotation videos and all. That is kind of like the last goal I have for 2026 reading wise. Again, with reading goals and all that, we have the free will to change our minds. I know I'm probably going to be adding more goals. Maybe, you know, I'll take away a goal. We don't know. We don't know what this year is going to bring us. With this reading journal as well, it comes with book bingo. So I'm just going to walk you through what I have for my book bingo right now. And so a lot of these I feel like are pretty attainable. And so I might change some of these out, or I might just make another book bingo if I end up like completing all of this in like the first year. So the first score I have is a reread. The next one is a 2026 release. Next one is a book with 800 plus pages. And then another one is a book recommendation by like a friend or someone. The next one is a debut novel. The next one is based off its cover. The next square says story takes place over one chaotic summer, so a summer read. Another one has a character you'd follow on Instagram. Next one is 24-hour reading challenge. And then last one in this row is a book owned for over a year. Tons of those. Next one, least fave romantic trope. Least fave romance trope. Next one is cozy fantasy. Free square is mood read because I'm a mood reader. Next one is book that breaks you. Next one is book set in a city you want to visit. So that's that row. Next row, read a book during a staycation or trip. Those might be in the future. Heavily annotate a book chosen by vibes. That's just like another mood read. I fear I might have to change that one out. Book written by an Asian author. A genre I avoided in 2025. Lots of those. A book that made me cry unexpectedly. A book with an unlikable but fascinating character. A book that feels like the new BTS album. If you know, you know. A book that inspires a creative project. And then one of the hobbies I want to get into is bookbinding and doing my own sprayed edges on books. So those are my 2026 reading goals. And comment below if you have similar reading goals, different reading goals. Agree with me, disagree with me in the comments below. But going into 2026 now, and being someone who's been creating content for the past 2 years about books and all that, I just feel like it just gives me a better idea on how I'm going to navigate this channel in 2026. Like even last year, it's like I did try to post at least once a week, and obviously I did not get to that goal just based off of free time and all that. But overall, I really do want to do more reading content and all that is, again, a bit more structured and also just a bit more, I guess, challenge based, but also some lifestyle vlogs and all that. I feel like, you know, with reading, it's a bit hard because it is such a time consuming hobby. And then editing is also time consuming. And so just being able to kind of find the best of both worlds and find a filming schedule that like makes sense in my mind, that's kind of what I'm going to be navigating for the next few months at least. Just try to get into that habit of filming videos again and filming content and all of that. But trust, we will get there eventually. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know your 2026 reading goals, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!